Hey guys, welcome to the Comic Den. I'm your host, Ace Knuckles, and I just wanted to kind of update everybody on a few things. We just had our first con, my first official con in Wichita, and it went great. I loved it, had a blast. It was actually three cons mixed into one. We had the Midwest Gaming, we had Anime Festival, and we had Air Capital Comic Con. They all teamed up and made this big, huge conglomeration for our River Festival here at Wichita. So there were a lot of people who were anime fans, a lot of people who were gaming fans, a couple of people who were actual comic book fans, and then just a lot of people who wandered in off the street. All you had to do is have a button to get in. So it's kind of a cool way to advertise for all these things, let people know that there is a scene in Wichita. But mainly what I did, I tried to sell Magnus. We still have 17 issues left, so if you want one, hit me up. I handed out cards to a lot of people. We made free buttons to help push the Comic Den, Magnus, and Legit Arts. And Legit Arts is mainly what I wanted to talk about today. Legit Arts, if you've seen this logo around, that is kind of a side project I have going on with a buddy of mine. And basically what we do is I started out going to cons and I went as a fan and I liked buying art. I have art all over my walls. And what we found out through my friend Chris and David is that some people aren't so honest whenever they get art and sell it at these comic conventions. And so we call them print farmers. What you do is you go online, you grab an image from Google, and you run it through a bunch of filters and you put it in Photoshop and you change a couple things on it, but you don't actually draw any of the characters. You don't do any of that that would be considered art. You just modify somebody else's work. And so we tried to sit down and develop a way for finding these people out, a way for customers to make informed decisions about what they're buying so that they're not getting their art from these print farmers. They're actually going to an actual artist and they're actually getting work that has time put in. And surprisingly enough, I've gotten some pushback from a couple of people, not a whole lot. Most people that I've talked to about it are really into the idea. They really like it. But some of the pushback is that, one, we're going to make people distrust the artists that are there. And two is that it's going to make it more difficult for these artists to make a sale, kind of because of that lack of trust. I guess before we get into that, the three questions that we have, and we just put them right here on the back of the card. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. So we try to put this all on the artist. So number one, is the artist who created these pieces here? What we found is a lot of times we'll walk up to a booth and say, oh, hey, are you the artist? And they're like, no. The artist is, in Kentucky and they're at a wedding or a funeral or, their mom's sick. And so I'm just here representing their booth, or it's my husband or it's my wife and they're out doing whatever else it is, which might be true. I mean, these are not foolproof questions. These are not guaranteed. These are not a checklist that has to be gone through to prove 100% that you are an actual artist or that somebody is a fake. These are just guidelines. These are just questions. I like to refer to them as conversation starters. I know as somebody who is new to the con scene, my first couple of cons that I went to, I just walked up and I liked the art and I was like, I want that one. And so there was no conversation. It was, how much do you charge? And that one's pretty. And so this is just a way for you to, one, get to know the artist. Find out who they are, what they like, what they're into, what their art style is. If you're going for the first time, you have no idea what you're buying. And after you realize that, hey, maybe this guy didn't do the art, if you still want to buy it, then buy it. I'm not telling you how to spend your money. I just know as a customer, I would rather give the money to the person who created the art. But again, these are just conversation starters. So, hey, are you the artist? Is the artist here? Is the artist who created these pieces here? A couple times we've been at cons and through talking to the guy, hey, is the artist here? No, he's in Albuquerque, which there was a con in Albuquerque at the time. So we were like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then we move on to the next one. Does the artist have any original sketches? Is there like a portfolio that we can flip through? And the guy was like, no, he does all of his stuff digitally. So there's no originals, which again, a lot of artists are moving to strictly digital work. But at that time, he also let in that, well, there's actually 3 different artists who are represented here, and none of them were there, and none of them had original pieces, which again, not guaranteed. Maybe they all went to Albuquerque. Maybe they all had stuff to do. Maybe each individual one went to a different con and they like to cover as much area as they can, but they work for one company. They've formed a group, a collective where they rely on each other, and that's cool. I've seen that happen. I've seen people do that. But that brings us to the third question: does the artist have any progress photos or videos on their social media? Just about every single artist at a Comic-Con has some sort of social media, whether that's Twitter, whether that's Instagram, which is a big one. If you're an artist out there and you don't have an Instagram, go make an Instagram right now and put as much of your stuff on there as possible. It is the best way to advertise your stuff. Or they have a Facebook or a Twitch or a YouTube account, or there are millions of different things that you could do to post, progress photos. My friend Chris, he puts pictures up all the time of him, even if it's just a pencil next to a sketch, or even if it's like a time-lapse thing, or even if it's just progression photos, like, oh, here's where I was, and it's a rough sketch, and then it gets a little bit cleaner as you go. Again, those can all be faked. That's a lot of work to go through to fake, that you're an actual artist. But hey, if that's what you're doing, then that's what you're doing. Again, these aren't guaranteed. I know artists who meet all 3 of these criteria. I know artists that meet one of these criteria. I know a couple artists that don't meet any of these criteria. I met a couple of artists over the weekend, and they're like, yeah, we don't have any social media. This is our first con. I just do things digitally. And then, they had somebody there representing them for a day or whatever. So, I mean, again, I told people, don't walk up, hold the card up, and say, you have to answer these 3 questions if you want me to buy your art. This isn't interrogation. It's not an interrogation. It's not, you have to check all these boxes or I can't buy your art. It's none of that. And that was kind of the main pushback, was that people are going to be untrusting of artists. People are going to be untrusting of whether they should spend their money. They'll hold on to that money a little tighter. And, coming at it from a consumer side, I want you to have to kind of prove it. I want you to be able to prove to me that what I'm getting is okay. You wouldn't accept this. You wouldn't accept it from any other form of purchase, right? You wouldn't go to a car dealership and the guy say, yeah, everything works. And then you just say, okay, there's no need to test drive it. Right? You have questions, you have answers, you have this back and forth between the salesperson and the consumer. It's a relationship, and not just that, but it does build relationships. Me going up and talking to artists is how I've kind of gotten into the industry. If I didn't go up and talk to artists, if I didn't go approach them and try to figure out who they are and what their process is and look at their portfolios, I never would have met Chris. I never would have met David. I never would have helped create Magnus. I never would have had my own comic book. So, and I'm not saying buying art is going to guarantee that you get into the industry in some way, but it's cool. It's awesome to have those relationships. So now I can show up to Comic-Cons and I have, oh, there's my friend over there in this booth. He makes awesome art. You really like this. He does watercolors over here, and this guy does this over here, and these girls do these over here. So it's also just a great way to immerse yourself into the community and not just be, yeah, I thought it'd be cool to see all the people and look at the art. It's a way for you to become part of the scene, not just observe the scene like you're going to the zoo or something. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on it. Again, I've had pushback. I've had some people love it. And my friend Chris Rao, I've mentioned him a couple times. He made a really good point of, yes, consumers might be a little more hesitant. They might be a little more skeptical. But what's the other alternative? That you don't talk to your customers? That, somebody could rip off your art and nobody's going to ever question it? I mean, what's the downside to this other than, oh, now I have to talk to my customers, right? And again, it's just good practice to, one, be at the place that you're going to be selling your stuff, which I know isn't always possible. I know a lot of guys that have their wives or their kids or their friends run a booth while they're somewhere else. Denver Comic-Con was at this same weekend that this Comic-Con was. And Denver Comic-Con's way bigger than what this ever dreamed about being. And so a lot of artists just said, hey, here's a fraction of my inventory. You go watch my booth. I'm going to Denver. And, that's fine. So they wouldn't have checked box one. But they did have original sketches. Or maybe they didn't have original sketches. But they do have progress photos. There was a guy that for the longest time, I was like, no, there's no way that he's making these himself. He's got all digital. And I didn't buy any of his stuff because I thought he was a print farmer. But then when Kent and I sat down and we made this list, and I went through this list with, the person at the booth, I found out, oh, you know what? He does have progress photos on his Instagram. So it actually made me want to buy this guy's stuff more because I always enjoyed it, but I was always worried in the back of my mind, well, is he stealing art? It doesn't look real enough. It looks like somebody just grabbed it and threw it through a filter. But then whenever I got the guy's card, I went on his Instagram because we tested this. We went through and we asked these questions. We actually had 5 or 6 of them, and we whittled it down to 3 because we think this is much easier and you don't have to have a whole lot to memorize. But yeah, so through this, I went and got some art from this guy because I found out that I had misconceptions about him, and I wouldn't have done that. I would have just gone through life thinking this guy had stolen art if I hadn't have went and looked at his progress photos or videos on his Instagram page. So yeah, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you love it, let me know why. If you hate it, let me know why. This isn't a set in stone thing. We're constantly trying to make it better. So if you have any other suggestions, put those in the comments. Please make sure you like the video. Please subscribe to my channel. I don't usually post videos like this. It's usually just me doing the rundown. Later on, I'm also going to have my monthly poll. I know I'm 4 days late, but it's been an insane 4 days. So I'll be getting to my monthly poll list here pretty soon as well. Other than that, yeah. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the little gray bell in the corner so that you can get notified whenever I'm here. If you're new from Comic-Con, welcome. Thank you for actually following the link on the card that I handed you. I hope you enjoy your buttons. If you bought a comic, I really hope you enjoy the comic. Yeah, I'll catch you guys later.